Thank you for joining in a little earlier so that we can get a little brief on your views. And it's very important that you are trying to see the similarities between the two. And I feel I have a lot of Catholic students as well, and they have, it's easier for them to take to KC because they have the grounding. So anyway, but that discussion, we can do it on another day, but let's start for today. Danvat Pranam, please accept our humble obeisances from everybody who have joined, about to join, and will be hearing this session online later on. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 9. Chapter 9 is the answers by citing the Lord's version. And the text for today is text 8. Prabhuji, over to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Should we start with Mangalacharan, or should I start by reading the verse? How would you prefer, Mataji?
Mangalacharan, please, Prabhuji.
Om Jnana Tirmihannasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jetam Surto Pangor Mama Mandir Mater Gati Matsarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadaha Srimad Ratnakara Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtalibi Sevyamanosmarami Shriman Rasa Rasa Rambi Vamsi Vata Tathastitaha Karshan Venu Svanir Gopi Gopinata Shriyestunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanshakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bangum Langayate Girim Matsarvasva Yatskripatamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chevam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayan Nashta Preshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavati Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloker Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 9, Verse 8. We will quickly recite the verse. And as Mataji has mentioned, this chapter is entitled Answers by Citing the Lord's Version. So we'll go ahead and recite the verse. Devyam sahasrabdam amogadarshano jetan ilatma vijito bayandriha atapyatasma kila lokatapanam tapastapiyang stapatam samhita tapastapiyam stapatam samahita. So all of those who are listening at home and also listening here in the apartment, if you want to open up the verse to 298, Srimad Bhagavatam. So just to qualify, in the last 5 days, I've been on 3 different flights, and this will be my 3rd class that I've given in 5 days in 3 locations. So I've given 3 classes in a week before, but never in 3 different locations. And I think that as we go through this verse, it has given me an extra dimension in terms of the understanding. So we'll go ahead and we'll read the purport and the translation of the purport, and hopefully that will become clear. So Lord Brahma underwent penances for 1,000 years by the calculations of the demigods. He heard this transcendental vibration from the sky, and he accepted it as divine. Thus he controlled his mind and senses, and the penances he executed were a great lesson for the living entities. Thus he is known as the greatest of all ascetics. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila Abhay Charanarvindam Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So purport: Lord Brahma heard the occult sound tapa, but he did not see the person who vibrated the sound. And still he accepted the instruction as beneficial for him, and therefore he engaged himself in meditation for 1,000 celestial years. 1 celestial year is equal to 6 times 30 times 12 times 1,000 of our years. And for all of those mathematicians amongst you, that calculation results in 2,160,000 years of our years. So 1 celestial year is not a year of Brahma, that is a year in the upper planetary systems and the heavenly planets. So a year of Brahma is actually 311 billion years. Yes, 311 billion years. Actually, sorry, it is 3,110,000,000 of our years, and the life of Brahma is 311 trillion. His acceptance of the sound was due to his pure vision of the absolute nature of the Lord. And due to his correct vision, he made no distinction between the Lord and the Lord's instruction. There is no difference between the Lord and sound vibration coming from him, even though he is not personally present. The best way of understanding is to accept such divine instruction. And Brahma, the prime spiritual master of everyone, is the living example of this process of receiving transcendental knowledge. The potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. So the potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator is apparently absent. So this is a very, very important point. Just less than a week ago, we were commemorating the 4th tier above of Sri Srimad Bhakti Charu Swami Guru Maharaj. We've also recently lost the physical association of Sri Srimad Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. And this year will be the 47th disappearance anniversary of ISKCON Samstapika Acharya Srila Prabhupada. But Prabhupada is explicitly stating within this purport that the potency of transcendental sound is never minimized because the vibrator of that sound is apparently absent, right? So there's no diminishment just because the personality does not appear to be there. The potency is nitya, it's eternal. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita or any revealed scripture in the world is never to be accepted as an ordinary mundane sound without transcendental potency. One has to receive the transcendental sound from the right source, accept it as a reality, and prosecute the direction without hesitation. The secret of success is to receive the sound from the right source of a bona fide spiritual master. Mundane manufactured sound has no potency, and as such, seemingly transcendental sound received from an unauthorized person has no potency. So Prabhupada would often give the example that if you say Coke, 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 like Coca-Cola, 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 repeatedly, eventually, well, first of all, I have no benefit, and eventually just get sick of saying the word. But you can tell the difference between a mundane sound and a spiritual sound, because if you say the word Krishna, 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 the more you say Krishna, the more you want to say Krishna. So one should be qualified enough to discern that such transcendental potency, one should be qualified enough to discern such transcendental potency. And either by discriminating or by fortunate chance, if one is able to receive the transcendental sound from a bona fide spiritual master, his path of liberation is guaranteed. The disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of a bona fide spiritual master, as Lord Brahma has executed instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple. And this completely faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. Lord Brahma controlled his 2 grades of senses by means of sense perception and sense organs, because he had to engage such senses in the execution of the order of the Lord. Therefore, controlling the senses means engaging them in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Lord's order descends in disciplic succession through the bona fide spiritual master, and thus execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is factual control of the senses. Such execution of penance in full faith and sincerity made Brahmaji so powerful that he became the creator of the universe. And because he was able to attain such power, he is called the best amongst all tapasvis. Jai. So, quite a long purport, but a very, very important purport. And I think that there's 3 salient points. Well, first of all, before we get to the purport, I'd just like to say that I have come back from Sri Dham Mayapur and actually from Varanasi. And I'm currently back in Dubai. I'm with my younger brother, Baladev, and his good wife, Rani, Mamta Rani, who is actually the daughter of the wonderful temple president in Malaga, Anandavardhan Prabhu, and Vinod Bihari, the niece of Vinod Bihari. So if any of them are listening, I offer my Dandavat pranams to them. My brother and his good wife are here listening. I'm going to try and keep them awake because we had a late night flight from Varanasi yesterday and from Mayapur, but they're feeling very enlivened, and so they're going to join us and hopefully will join us moving forward. So onto this purport, there are 3 very key points that I think we can draw out of this purport. The first point is the potency of Shabda Brahma. Shabda Brahma means spiritual sound vibration, and how we should realize that spiritual sound vibration is non-different from the subject that it is referring to. How to understand that, how to contemplate that, how to develop that mood, that's something that we're going to explore. But that's the potency of spiritual sound vibration, otherwise known as Shabda Brahma. The second is actually Brahma's example here. The second and the third is Brahma's example. Brahma is, in this verse, as elaborated in the purport, demonstrating how to be the ideal disciple, i.e. how to receive this Shabda Brahma, how to discern Shabda Brahma from mundane sound vibration, and how then to act upon it. So that's the second point, is how as a disciple should we understand what is an instruction, and how do we move forward and implement it within our life. And the third point is that Brahma is also exhibiting how to be the ideal spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada used to say to his disciples, you become guru. Become guru. Guru doesn't just mean that we become an initiating spiritual master. Guru means that we become heavy in our example. And our example serves as inspiration for those around us. Chanakya says one should not become a father, a teacher, a guru, or take any leadership position if he is not qualified to elevate his dependents from the cycle of birth and death. So even if you're a parent, even if you're a teacher of some capacity, you have become a guru. So you need to understand how, after becoming a disciple, you are simultaneously also becoming a guru. And the hallmark of a guru is what? It's not his ability to take on disciples, but it is his ability to follow the order as a disciple. The guru is the extension of becoming a disciple. That is the maturity of becoming a disciple. It's not that you progress from a disciple to a guru. The mature state of being a disciple, a lifelong disciple, is that you ultimately allow other people, enable other people to become disciples. You do not become a guru, you become the servant of your guru, who becomes a servant of his guru, who becomes a servant of his guru, ultimately back to Krishna. So these are the 3 points: sound vibration, Brahma's example as a perfect disciple, and Brahma's example as a perfect guru. So let's explore that first point then, which is to do with sound vibration. Actually, I think even before we get into that, I'd like to touch upon this calculation of a celestial year: 6 by 30 by 12 by 1,000, which equals 2.16, about 2.16 million of Earth years. So actually, as I mentioned earlier on, Brahma lives for 311 trillion Earth years. And this is equal to 2.1, his period of tapasya is equal to 2.16 million Earth years. So effectively, this equates to about 25 days of Lord Brahma's time, or 1 month, that he continuously spends in tapasya. 1 month continuously, that means without break. And this is the period of time that it took Brahma to become a fully self-realized soul. Now, for many people, when they hear the example of Brahma, they think, Brahma, he didn't need a guru. He just got this idea, and then, meditated for a month, and then he achieved full perfection. So if Brahma can do it, and he did it from the point that he was born as a baby, surely me as an adult, I can just, sit down, close my eyes, go to the forest, go to a guided meditation. I'll also understand the purpose of life. Fact of the matter is that Brahma meditated for 25 days continuously as a baby. No food, no water, no distraction, no Netflix. Now, if any person can, for 25 days as a baby, forego all of those facilities and then come to, also receive an instruction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead before starting his meditation, then by all means, you can be instructed by Krishna directly. But the fact of the matter is, and Prabhupada also mentions in many of the purports building up to this, because actually the preceding 4 or 5 verses have all been about tapasya, that it's just not possible. In this age, certainly, it's not possible for us to become a personality anywhere close to Brahma. So we must understand that Brahma is an acharya, right? And I often make this point: achar is a spicy chutney, but in this context, it doesn't mean spicy chutney, it means conduct. And acharya, acharya means in whose conduct we seek to emulate, but not to duplicate, right? We follow in the principle, but we don't try and do the exact same thing. And the example I always give to illustrate that is that when Ram Setu was being built by Hanuman, the monkeys were throwing boulders, they were throwing the tops of mountains, they were throwing, uprooting trees, not sawing them down, uprooting them and throwing them into the ocean to form the bridge. But the little squirrels were throwing grains of sand. Now, comparatively, it's not a big deal, but Lord Ram was equally as happy because the squirrel, according to its capacity, was doing what it could do. And the monkeys, the vanaras, according to their capacity, were doing what they could do. The Lord was not expecting the squirrels to perform the activities of the monkey directly, but he was happy that the squirrels were following in their footsteps, emulating the activities of their capacity, but not trying to duplicate artificially, which was beyond their capacity. So equally, we should follow in Brahma's example. We should follow the orders of the spiritual master. But that doesn't mean that we should seek to artificially, make a show that we're of the same level of Lord Brahma. That's dishonest. And you'll see later on that the verse actually says that when Brahma performed his tapasya, he did so without any deception. It wasn't some kind of show. In fact, Brahma was by himself, so there was no artifice to his performance. He wasn't trying to make a show, I'm this great yogi, Om Tat Sat. No, nobody was there. This was a genuine attempt. So we follow the principle, but we don't try and duplicate the exact activity. We act according to our capacity. So onto the potency of sound vibration. I was even asked, I remember when I was at university, that's a long time ago now, we're closer to 2 decades now than one when I first started. And somebody came up to me, actually an Indian guy. He said, what is the benefit? Hare Krishna on the streets, banging your cymbals. What's the practical benefit of this? He said, just join cricket club and do something worthwhile with your life. Why are you wasting your time on chanting Hare Krishna at university? That's not practical. But the fundamental misunderstanding is that he thought that the sound vibration was just some mundane noise. Just some mundane noise. He didn't understand the principle that the sound vibration is non-different from Krishna himself. And in fact, there's a very, very pertinent verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita to this effect. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 17th chapter, verse 132. Deha dehire nama namire Krishna nahi bheda jivara dharma nama dehara swarupa vibheda. Right? Deha dehire nama namira Krishna nahi bheda jivara dharma nama dehi swarupa vibheda. Which means there is no difference. Nama namire means the Deha dehire nama namire Krishna nahi beda. Deha there, the body, the owner of the body, nama namire, the nam and the owner of the name, Krishna nahi beda. There is no difference between the body and the name of Krishna. There is no difference between the name and the body of Krishna. In the purport, Prabhupada says to this verse, which is Madhya Leela 17, 132, there is no difference between Krishna's body and his soul. Krishna is simultaneously both soul and body. What that means is that Krishna is purely spiritual. His body is spiritual. His existence is spiritual. The distinction between body and soul applies to conditioned souls. The body of the conditioned soul is different from the soul itself. And the conditioned soul's name is different from his body. One may be named Mr. John, but if we call for Mr. John may never actually appear, right? However, if we utter the holy name of Krishna, Krishna is immediately present on our tongue. In the Padma Purana, Krishna says, Mad Bhakta Yatra Gayanti Tatra Tishtami Narada. So Mad Bhakta Yatra Gayanti Tatra Tishtami Narada. So Yatra Gayanti, wherever there is the chanting of the holy name, Tatra Tishtami, there I appear. Yeah, but it has to be through Mad Bhakta. That's what the Padma Purana says. Wherever my devotee chants my name, Tatra Trishtami Narada. I will appear in that place, Narada. So we should realize that when there is the chanting of the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, that is factually non-different to the Supreme Personality of Godhead being, the Supreme Personality of Godhead being personally present. The holy name of Krishna is non-different from Krishna himself. It is infused with all of his potencies. Nam Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says Sarva Shaktis. Nam Makari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis. That the holy name of Krishna has Sarva Shaktis, all of Krishna's potency. It's non-different, especially when a devotee chants. There's 3 different levels of chanting: Nama Parad, Nama Bas, Shuddhana. Nama Parad, we're offensive because we have this mentality that Krishna isn't there. As we desire, so the Lord will reciprocate. If we don't have faith in the Lord's name, then the Lord's name will not reveal itself. But if a pure devotee chants, who understands fully that the name of Lord Krishna is non-different from Krishna, then the Lord will directly appear in that place. And all of the potency of the Lord will appear in that place. So we have to understand that the Lord's name, and what else is equivalent to the Lord's name is the glorification of the Lord, the Lord's pastimes. The Lord's name, those things which pertain to the Lord and the Lord's name, like the Lord's pastimes, are non-different from the Lord himself. So, and some of the Lord's pastimes means the Shastra. The Shastra can be of 2 types. It can be the Smriti, Smarana, those things, those pastimes which were remembered by the devotees of the Lord and which were codified. But then the Shastra can also be the Shruti, Shravanam, that which was spoken by the Lord directly, Shravanam. The Shruti is the Shravanam, and the Smriti is the Smaranam. Though the Shastra is divided into 2 types: the Smaranam, like the Puranas, the Itihas, Mahabharata. Krishna, okay, he talks in parts of the Mahabharata. This is really the recollections of Vyasadeva, the Puranas. So recollections of the sages. The Smriti are the Vedas, the 4 Vedas, or the Bhagavad Gita, those Gitas which are directly sung by the Lord. So we should understand that all of these Shastra are just like the holy name because they are describing the Lord. They are full of the potency of the Lord. And what is the final thing is when the bona fide spiritual master talks, when he gives the name, when he describes the Lord's pastimes, and when he gives instructions, right? When he gives instructions pertaining how to achieve the Lord, it is non-different than the Lord being there personally. It is non-different than the Lord being there personally. Why? We just hinted at the beginning. Because the spiritual master, while he may be your guru, his being your guru is just a symptom of him being a fully committed disciple to his guru. And his guru, being a guru, is just a symptom of him being a pure disciple of his guru. Abhaya Charanaravindan Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. His life and soul was the instruction of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, his life and soul was the instruction of Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, whose life and soul was the instruction of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, whose life and soul was the instruction of Jagannath Das Babaji. We can go all the way back up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Ishwarapuri, Madhavendapuri, Lakshmipati Tirtha, up to Madhvacharya, Narada, Madhvacharya, Vyasadeva, Narada, and ultimately Sri Krishna. So why is it that the orders of the spiritual master are non-different from Krishna himself? Because ultimately, all of these instructions come from the initial instruction, which was given 3 or 4 verses ago, tapa, from Krishna. Krishna instructed Brahma. Brahma instructed Narad. Narad instructed Vyasadeva. And these instructions follow down. These instructions are all from that initial instruction from Krishna to Brahma. And all of those instructions are driving at what? They're directly coming from the Lord to enable the sincere disciple, or the disciple of a disciple, or the disciple of a disciple, to ultimately achieve their heart's desire, their soul's desire of reunion with Krishna. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, Krishnera Nityadas. Jivera Swarupa Hoy, the real nature of the soul, of the self. Jivera Swarupa, your Swarupa, your eternal identity. Krishnera Nityadas is to eternally be a servant of Krishna. Gopi Bhartur Padakamaro Das Das Anudas, that we serve to become the servant of the servant of the servant of the lotus feet of the internal servitors of the Lord, the Gopi Bhartur Padakamaro, the lotus feet of those gopis. So that's how we should understand that the things, the words, the sound vibration, the genuine sound vibration pertaining to the Lord is non-different. The instructions of the Lord are non-different to the Lord. Why? Because they give us the Lord. They will connect us to the Lord. Now, Brahma shows how to be a proper disciple. And Brahma also shows how to be the mature disciple, which is ultimately the guru in this verse. So the best way of in the purport, Srila Prabhupada is saying the best way of understanding is to accept such a divine instruction. And Brahma, the prime spiritual master of everyone, is the living example of the process of receiving transcendental knowledge. The disciple receives the transcendental knowledge. So let's think about how the ideal disciples, how do they behave? Well, let's take Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, for example. What is the method of receiving proper instruction? Does it mean that we just blindly follow? No, it doesn't. We take Arjuna at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. First chapter, in fact, up to the 7th verse, Arjun's in a quandary. He's not listening. He's like, I don't think we should do this. He is listening, but he's saying, I don't think we should do this. He has doubts, and he's voicing those doubts. He's not just saying, Krishna, you speak. He's voicing his doubts. We see that the chapter before, Parikshit Maharaj, he's not just passively listening. He's asking questions. He asked the whole of the last chapter to Canto to chapter 8. It's just questions. It's just questions. Question. So it's not that we should be totally passive, switch off. We should be practical. We should query it. But tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya padekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshana. What is the nature of that inquiry? What is the nature of that question? Those questions are submissive. Submissive doesn't mean that we suspend our intelligence. Submissive means that we are genuinely seeking answers. We are genuinely seeking to clarify our doubts. We are not trying to set traps. Sometimes you go to places and there'll be interfaith dialogue, or there will be atheists and theists. And while people will outwardly appear, I mean, often they don't appear, it descends into arguments very quickly, but often they'll be seeming to appear to ask a question, but they're not really seeking to find the answer. They're seeking to set a trap. Trap is something and be like, that doesn't make any sense. They aren't really trying to probe their boundary. They're just trying to see how they can trip. That kind of approach will not lead to the proper outcome. If you want to have an argument and if you want to undermine someone, you will expect that kind of outcome. But if you want to genuinely further your understanding, then you move forward. That doesn't mean that you suspend your intelligence. That doesn't mean that you don't ask questions, but you open up the possibility to being convinced, genuine. You approach someone submissively, you listen to the answer. If you don't agree with it, you don't agree with it. Krishna even says at the end of the Bhagavad Gita, I've given you this information. It's up to you whether you choose to accept it or to reject it. But at least go in with a neutral mindset. At least go in with a mindset that you can be convinced. Don't go in with a mindset you're trying to pick faults. You're trying to set traps. Because that is a deceptive mindset. And that is the mindset which will not yield to the absolute truth. That is not tadvidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya, that you inquire, but you also render service. You're submissive unto that person. So this is the way of being a proper disciple, as shown by Parikshit Maharaj, inquiring, as shown by Arjun, expressing the doubts. And even Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his god uncle, Ramachandra Puri. Ramachandra Puri. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was known as Nyasi Shiromani. Nyasi Shiromani means that he was the Shiromani Sannyasi. His conduct was always austere. His conduct was always ideal. His sadhana was, his conduct with the opposite sex was always perfect. His conduct amongst devotees was always perfect. His conduct amongst his seniors and his juniors and in front of the Lord was always perfect. But still, Ramachandra Puri, who was the god brother of Ishvara Puri, his own spiritual master, criticized. He said, "You are eating too much." And that sometimes Mahaprabhu was only eating once a day. And he followed Chaturmasya so strictly that he would eat like a cow. You're allowed one mouthful like a cow. So you make a small pile of food. And without using your hands, the amount that you can gather in one bite is your allotted quota per day for 4 months, Chaturmasya. And Ramachandra Puri was still saying, "You are a sense enjoyer. You are eating too much." But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed the mood of an ideal disciple. He said, "This is my spiritual master's godbrother." And all the devotees were shocked. They said, "How can you say that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sense enjoyer?" But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of an ideal disciple, took it humbly. And he halved the amount that he was eating. So from one mouthful, like a cow, it was half a mouthful, like a cow. So this is the mood of a proper disciple. And we see that Brahma is also showing this mood. He said that the best way of accepting such divine, the best way, when did it say that in the verse? The best way of exempling this process of receiving transcendental knowledge is given by Lord Brahma. He heard it, and then he carried it out. Right? Srila Prabhupada says later on, the disciple, however, must be ready to execute the order of a bona fide spiritual master, as Lord Brahma executed the instruction of his spiritual master, the Lord himself. Following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple. And this completely faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. So, making the order of the spiritual master your life and soul is a secret of success. Now, obviously, Brahma acted upon it immediately, but our dear Keshav Maharaj, His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj, said that sometimes it's not always possible to immediately execute. Srila Prabhupada, in his youth, he was in his early 20s when he received some of the most important instructions for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But it wasn't until he was in his 60s that he could really begin executing them in earnest. So His Holiness Swayam Bhagavan Keshav Maharaj said that the spiritual master's order can be delayed, but it can never be denied. It can be delayed, but it can never be denied. So sometimes we'll find that there can be some disconnect between when we receive and when we are able to execute. But that doesn't mean that we stop meditating. You see, Srila Prabhupada was meditating on that instruction all throughout his life. He was already a householder. He had worldly responsibilities. So Prabhupada, being the ideal, the Nara Uttama, the Narottam, the ideal individual, the ideal human being, executed his worldly duties very faithfully, but he never gave up on that instruction of his spiritual master. He made it his life and soul. So even though there was this time delay, he still took on that sound vibration, that pure sound vibration, and made it his life and soul. The purport then goes on to say that tapasya, what is tapasya? They say that the real tapasya is the ability for one to follow the instruction of the spiritual master. That is the real tapasya. Control of the senses is the real tapasya. But the control of the senses is really what? It says it in the final paragraph. Therefore, controlling the senses means engaging them in the transcendental service of the Lord. The Lord's order descends in disciplic succession through the bona fide spiritual master. And thus the execution of the order of this bona fide spiritual master is the factual control of the senses. You see, there is a big misunderstanding. I think it's gone now, because in one sense, even restraining the senses in India is considered very old-fashioned. Now it's enjoy, 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 enjoy all across the world. But previously in India, you would see many mendicants who would take on incredible austerity. We see like Hiranyakashipu, who stood in one place for thousands of years in meditation. His whole body became emaciated and consumed. And he was just doing untold penances. Snow would come, wind would come, heat would come, slate would come, and he would just persevere. There was once I saw a picture of a yogi who had kept his arm up for 7 years. One thing, he kept his arm up for 7 years. And his whole arm had decayed. The blood couldn't flow there, and the whole arm had decayed. But he was very proud of this penance. We see people who take Mon Vrat, they'll go for days or weeks on end without saying one word. And they think that they are controlling the senses. But what is the value of damaging the body? What is the value of stopping speaking? You see, rather than, this is not controlling the senses for the Lord's pleasure, this is just artificially repressing. Or in the case of the arm, artificially destroying part of the body. No, the real point of controlling the senses is to use the senses exclusively in the service of the Lord. When your senses are 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, and the service of the Lord means what? It means the service of the instruction of the representative of the Lord. Because who are we to go to Krishna directly? I haven't got him on speed dial. Hi, Krish, what do you want me to do? Okay, yeah, done. No, we understand how to help and please and serve Krishna through Krishna's representative, the bona fide spiritual master. The bona fide spiritual master gives us the bona fide spiritual sound vibration, which is Mandit from Krishna. And when we engage all of our senses, all of our faculties, all of our abilities in serving that sound vibration instruction, then we can become to know of controlling our senses. And that is the meaning of tapasya. Tapasya is not just artificial. I stand on one leg, I stand on my head, I keep my arm up, I keep my arm down, I never speak to my wife again, my wife never speaks to me again. This is all artificial. What it really means is to the degree that we have zeroed in vision, complete blinkered focus on the order of our spiritual master. That is the only tapasya that is required. And even within ISKCON, there are some very, very austere people, and all glories to them for adopting the mood of the Goswamis. But one of my spiritual mentors, or I should say openly, my spiritual master said, he said, there's enough austerity in this world. We are not here to seek out austerity. We are here only to execute the order of our spiritual master. So whatever it takes in order to execute that faithfully, that is the tapasya that is required. Nothing more than that. If we need something additional because it helps us focus, then great. But the focus should always be executing the order of the spiritual master. The other tapasya in and of itself is not relevant if it's disconnected to the order of the spiritual master. So then how to become a proper guru? How to become a proper guru? We see that proper guru is one who only gives that spiritual sound vibration. Proper guru is actually defined at the beginning of nectar instruction. Vacho vegan, manasakrod vegan, nitan vegan, udarapasta vegan. What is the first? So one who is able, vacho vegan, manasakrod vegan, nitan vegan, udarapasta vegan. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak. The very first thing is the urge to speak. Do you see how this? We're linking it back round to the spiritual sound vibration, the urge to speak. One who can tolerate the urge to speak, one who only speaks the spiritual sound vibration is a guru. One who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Or the other way of translating it, sarvam apimam prithvim sashishat. One who can make the prithvim sashishat, the whole world his disciple. who can either make disciples all over the world or can make the whole world his disciple. So Brahma, we've already seen, he is the ideal spiritual master. It says, Prabhupada is even saying, Brahma, the prime spiritual master of everyone. Brahma is the prime spiritual master. Why? Why? Because he has taken whatever he is hearing from the Lord and he's acting upon it. Not only is he acting upon it, he's then disseminating it to all the other living entities. Teneri de Brahma, Teneri, within the heart of Lord Brahma, all the understanding of the Vedas were given. And Brahma then becomes his own sampradaya. Brahma, Madhva, Gauriya Sampradaya, within which our own Srila Prabhupada entered into, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered into. And what did he do? Brahma, he didn't just disseminate to whoever he could find. He actually actively called people. He made a whole universe. For what purpose? He brought all of the conditioned souls who were hovering, gave them a faculty and facility to enter into the world. And why? So he could, so he can engage all of his senses into disseminating it and the upliftment of the fallen conditioned souls. So we see also that in text 4 previously, it said, O King, the personality of Godhead, being very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. So Brahma was able to become a spiritual master. He was able to elevate himself to the spiritual master and assume the position of the spiritual master. Why? Because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga. The penance, the tapasya. Tapasya was the very first instruction. We see that 4 verses ago. Brahma is bewildered. He finds himself in existence, but he can't understand how and why he has come to exist. He's sitting on a lotus. He can't see where the lotus has come from. He's surrounded by darkness, right? And he doesn't know what his existence is about. His sincerity means that just 2 syllables, ta and pa, tapa, are the first things that he hears. And he immediately acts upon it, tapa. And the interesting thing about this is that tapa is both the method, is both the instruction, and it is the method, right? It is the instruction, it is the goal, but it is also the means, tapa. So we engage in tapa to get more tapa, right? We engage in service ultimately to get more service. We serve so that we can serve. And that is what non-deceptive penance is. That is what makes one a real guru. If you are serving for some adoration, if you are serving for some material facility, if you are serving so you can get bragging rights, this is deceptive penance. And the Lord, he can pick up on it. You may get that luxury within this material world. You may serve and you may become world famous, but you will not get the eternal service of the Supreme Personality of God. Punir mushtika bhava. Again, become a mouse. You may achieve whatever fame and status you want in this life, but you will not have become a bona fide guru. Because what is a bona fide guru? A bona fide guru is a servant of his spiritual master, who is a servant of his spiritual master, who is a servant of his spiritual master, who is a servant of the divine sound, and the divine sound is not different from Krishna. So that is the symptom of what the pure spiritual master is and how to identify the pure spiritual master. Pure spiritual master may be world famous and world glorious, and the pure spiritual master may be very humble. We see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he has disciples when India is a colony, and he is making lords and ladies of Britain his disciples. He is a scholar in multiple languages. He can chase off the biggest luminaries of the time from his debates. He writes English that even an English scholar cannot read. But who is his guru? Is his guru another big person? His guru is a personality who could barely read and write. Srila Gaura Das Babaji. Does that make him any less a bona fide guru? Gaura Das Babaji is the embodiment of Vairagya. In his pranam mantra, you see, he's the embodiment of Vairagya. He's so renounced the material world. Why? Because he's relishing so much the holy name of Krishna. He's in constant absorption. So the spiritual master should not be ascertained from any kind of external situation. It should be because of his non-deceptive penitent bhakti. What Gaura Das, Babaji, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had in common was their exclusive focus in serving the instructions of their respective spiritual master, for the pleasure of their spiritual master, the pleasure of those instructions, and ultimately for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to sum up, I think that this verse is very important. It's three different things that we can learn from it. Number one, the potency of genuine spiritual sound vibration. It's non-different from Krishna. When we chant Krishna's name, that is Krishna himself. When we hear an instruction about Krishna from a bona fide representative of Krishna, following that is following and coming close to Krishna himself. And a perfect disciple engages in tapasya. Real tapasya is what? Real tapasya is engaging all of your senses, faculties, and resources in the pursuit of that pure spiritual sound vibration. It might be delayed, but it will not be denied if you are sincere. And ultimately, what happens to a pure servant of that instruction, the pure perfect disciple? He becomes a perfect guru. That is the natural progression of a perfect disciple. He becomes a guru. Why? To make disciples, not of his own, but of his spiritual master. Will make them of his spiritual master. Will make them of his spiritual master all the way back to Krishna. And that pure guru is one who has perfected the art of pursuing the pure sound vibration, the pure spiritual sound vibration. He's made it his life and soul, and he is non-deceptive. There is no ulterior motive. It is exclusively for the pleasure of the predecessor acharyas and ultimately the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. I thank you all very much. Are there any questions, comments, and corrections?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for today's session. It was really enlightening, and the three concepts coming out so clearly. And I guess everybody's established all the three in their heart. And we now open up to questions. Are there any questions or comments from the group? Austerities of Monvrat, probably. We take it, I mean, we follow the example.
That's good. That's good. So,
are there any questions or comments? No, Prabhuji, I think it was very, very, yes, Dennis Prabhu, do you have a question?
Krishna Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances.
Please accept my humble obeisances, Dennis Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for reminding us about the beauty of the transcendental sound vibration of the holy names and the instructions of following the importance of following the instructions of spiritual master. Maybe Prabhuji, just a clarification of my question is the instructions. How are the instructions of the spiritual master? For example, do they include like the 16 rounds of chanting, or there's something more? Maybe like how His Divine Grace Swami Prabhupada was told to go to the West and give this nectar of Krishna consciousness to the West. Could there be any repercussions if he did not fulfill, maybe coming to the West, but he did his 16 rounds of chanting the holy names?
That's a very, very good question, Dennis Prabhu. I really, really like that question. And in fact, yeah, that's brilliant. So there's two things to consider here. Now, within ISKCON, and actually this is a lecture in itself, you see Srila Prabhupada is known as, Prabhupada was at pains to call himself the founder Acharya, Samstapik Acharya. And without going into the full details, Srila Prabhupada is what known as an Udarika. There's Uparika and Udarika Acharya. He's the Uparika Acharya. He is the standard by which all other gurus will reference themselves. So you may know that we have 4 Vaishnava Sampradayas. You have the Brahma Sampradaya. And the Uparika Acharya in that is Madhvacharya. People can't say that I've come up with something better than Madhvacharya. He is given the ultimate standard which everyone else follows. In the Sri Sampradaya, we have Ramanuja. Everybody else's ability is referenced in line of Ramanuja. In the Kumar Sampradaya, we have Nimbarka. In the Rudra Sampradaya, we have Vishnu Sma. So similarly, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we have Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada's instructions and standards are universal to everyone. And you're right, 16 rounds, 4 regulative principles. You can't say because Prabhupada hasn't said it to me, it doesn't apply. This is the base standard. You have to follow them. And yes, you're right, Dennis Prabhu. Just by chanting 16 rounds, by following 4 regulative principles, Prabhupada is very merciful. And you probably will go back and see Krishna at the end of this life. But doing the bare minimum, you see, when you love someone, when you care for someone, it's not just doing the bare minimum. You want to go out of your way to please that personality, to please that person. And you say to your beloved, what more can I do for you? What will put a smile on your face? So if we really love God, if we really love the representatives of God, if we really have compassion for the children of God who are suffering in this world, we say, what more can we do to please you? What more can we do to serve the people around you? And by asking this question, we will receive answers and instructions of how we can serve more. So yes, the basic instructions of Srila Prabhupada are there. There are hugely detailed instructions from Srila Prabhupada that are there. And there are also instructions from the senior followers of Srila Prabhupada who may become our Diksha Gurus, which will be there. And to the degree that we follow them, to the degree that we take on more instructions, and to the degree that we surrender more to following those instructions, to that degree, we will feel the love and the bliss within our hearts. So yes, basic instructions should be followed, of course. But as we progress, increasingly developed and complex and significant instruction should also be followed. But brilliant question. And in fact, we could have a whole seminar on that. So thank you so much, Dennis Prabhu. I saw a stethoscope there. So are you a medic? Are you studying medicine?
Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Are you studying medicine?
For that answer? Yes, I'm a finalist in medicine and surgery in Eldoret, Kenya.
Okay, very good. So you're not just a doctor, you're a love doctor and you're a soul doctor as well now, Dennis Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Dennis. We move on to Panchali Mataji. Kindly unmute and ask your question, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class as always. Now, it's just a continuation of what Dennis Prabhu asked. It was such a wonderful question. And thank you, Prabhuji, for answering that so well. Just a reflection, and I was thinking that in continuation, or rather, to what you commented, I was just thinking it's also the endeavor, isn't it? And so it's Krishna. Sometimes we are not able to fulfill what our spiritual masters have asked us to do. Yes, we have to do the minimum because that is the required standard. But sometimes I often think that, if it's really impossible to do something, would I really offend my spiritual master when my spiritual master knows that I'm trying my best to do it, but for some circumstantial reasons I'm not able to fulfill that matter. So like Krishna, would my spiritual master see my endeavor in doing that, and he would understand that, because Krishna and our spiritual masters, they are just so merciful. They're able to see how much we are trying to follow them, and if we try that with our utmost effort, they are merciful enough to understand that, and if you are successful, yes, that is brilliant. But even if for some reasons we are not successful, they are not going to, completely dismiss us, because they know that we've tried our utmost. But I could be wrong here.
That's a lovely comment, Mataji. Krishna says, I carry what you have, I protect what you have, and I carry what you lack. So absolutely, the endeavor, if you're endeavoring for it and you can't see the result, I mean, there's so many examples even within our movement. So many examples. Jayananda Prabhu. There was Mataji in Nigeria, or she was in West Africa, of people who had said about certain tasks but may have not said. I mean, even Srila Prabhupada himself, he said, I've only half of my work is done. Prabhupada didn't finish the Bhagavad Gita. He said, half of my work is done. I've established the Bhagavat Marg, but Varnashram Dharma has not been established. But no one could fault Srila Prabhupada from a lack of effort. And even if, so I really love the sentiment, Mataji. Agreed. The endeavor is what is important, the intention, but the outcome is always in Krishna's hands.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you very much.
Thank you too. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, I think we've exhausted our time for today. Can I request Dennis Prabhu, if you're not able to switch on your video, it is okay. Can you just end the session for us today? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. And thank you, Your Grace, Krishnarjun and Dasa, for that beautiful class. And the one question that we shall go with take home is, what more can we do to please Krishna? Hare Krishna. So ask the devotees in the session to kindly unmute so that we can chant one Mahamantra in glorification of His grace. Hare Krishna Arjuna and Dasa for that beautiful class. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhaiva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Krishnarjun Prabhuji ki
Jai.
jai.
We also say,
Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai.
we also say one
Jai. Yes.
Can we also say one last Mahamantra for the of our illustrious host, and say one on behalf of her departed parents, who I know have gone in quick succession, and Mataji has still been so diligent in the service of her spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. So I'd like to have one more Mahamantra on behalf of Kirtika Mataji's departed parents. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Mataji and family ki jai.
Jai.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for being with me at the last moment. Thank you for all your advice. And it really helped me. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Oh, Shiromani is so cute.
So Shiromani is learning Das Avatar Stotram.
Say Prabhupada. Say Prabhupada.
She's a bit camera shy, but she's learning Das Avatar Stotram. So She's listening to the classes. By next year, she'll be teaching me in the
Giving
class.
the classes. Yes, yes. We are looking forward to that.
How old
Hare
is
Krishna.
she?
Hare Krishna.
How old is she, Prabhuji?
She's 13. Oh, actually, she's just turned 14 months today.
Oh, well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, happy 14 months to her.
Thank you, sir.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Your endeavor of staying up so late from Dubai, and in spite of the jet lag and in spite of all the travelings you've done, you are an inspiration to us as well. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.